In the past 4 days, Georgia recruiting goes 4 for 4. The Great Wall of Georgia has now been fully assembled. On three, just dropped some new rankings. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. SEC Media Day, folks have been is next week. Georgia already has their list of folks. We'll talk about that. All of this and more on the DGD podcast. Welcome in, folks, for those listening and watching. I'm Robert Reynolds, Kobe Pierce. How you doing, Kobe?
Doing good, brother. Doing good.
Doing good, pretty good. So obviously,
voice is a little cracky today. I don't know why.
A little bit. Oh, get you some water. I think getting some water will help out there. We got a loaded show for you today, folks. Listen, when you're talking 4 recruits in 4 days, you best be understanding of the fact that there's a lot to talk about. So got the water on deck. Let's jump right in. First things first, way to start your Monday off with Apotheos coffee, folks. Actually had mine this morning as well. Make sure to go to dgdpodcast.com/Apotheos, view their selection, learn more about Apotheos as well. Do keep in mind they are the official coffee and cold brew partners of the Classic City Collective. So whenever you go to our website, dgdpodcast.com/Apotheos, and you use the link to shop their selection and you buy coffee, every single bag of coffee or K-Cups, might I add, 20% of the proceeds Apotheos will send to the collective, regardless the blend. So keep that in mind. Also give them a follow at Apotheos Roastery on Instagram and on Twitter at Apotheos Coffee. Thanks, Apotheos, for sponsoring the show and starting my morning off right every single day. Kobe, we're going to get just straight into this. 4 recruits in 4 days. I don't know if I've seen anything close to this from a Georgia recruiting standpoint. In regards to the sheer 4-for-4 type situation. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it just really kind of set the precedence for July. We kind of sat here and talked about in June that we kind of had I won't say a slow June. That wouldn't be the correct words, but it was a quiet June. How about that? That's a better way to put it. But really,
quiet is an understatement.
Really brought July in with a bang. I mean, got 4 recruits, some big time guys, some guys that at the end of the day, like, they're game changers for your offensive line down the road, because you just can't teach size. You can't teach how to be 6'7", can't teach how to be 6'8", can't teach how to be 340 pounds. You may can help somebody eat to get there, but it's just not an easy weight for people to be able to carry around. There's some guys that we've all been very excited about. There's some guys on here that some dog fans, Easley, you may have given up on a couple months ago. I'm excited to kind of dive in and talk about each one of these guys and kind of what it means for the program.
Absolutely. I mean, first off, listen, so you have Michael Ewing ending off Georgia's recruiting in June, right? Committing on June 30th, the last day of June. But then July 5th, we'll start off with Daniel Calhoun. Daniel Calhoun announces that he is committing to Georgia on July 5th. And it starts the 4-for-4, right? This ain't Wendy's, folks. This is Georgia recruiting 4-for-4. So Daniel Calhoun, commits to Georgia. And, it's just one of these things where to me, I felt like he was the must-have offensive lineman in this class, right? And the reason why I say that is because it's the premier, in-state guy, right? But what you're getting from Calhoun, you're getting 6'6", 365. Massive. Absolutely massive. Listen, he might not be the best. We'll talk about that a little bit. But you're getting a road grader. I know he plays at Walton, plays tackle out there. Listen, when you're 6'6" and you're playing guys that are maybe 6'1", 6'2", there's always going to be questions about pad level, right? Just from a sense of having to get down so low. But I think as you move to the next level, right, I'm excited because I just feel like, he can plug in and play at guard, right? Being at 365, I feel he has to lose a little bit of weight to play tackle at Georgia. But what are your observations from Calhoun, and what does he bring into Georgia, Kobe?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely gonna have to lose some weight. That's part of it. Body transformation, something like we've seen. Everybody goes through at the Division I level. Walton's a good school, but you just don't know where you're getting a lot of these guys from. What kind of strength and conditioning program they've had, what kind of running regimen they've had, what kind of conditioning tests their coach makes them pass to be able to play. And then on top of that, like if you are a guy at a small school, you're really going to sit out your star offensive lineman because he can't pass conditioning test. You know, that's not a luxury you may or may not have. But he's probably gonna have to be 325, 330. When I think back, there just haven't been a ton of 330 offensive linemen that have played here. I mean, Ben Cleveland and Isaiah Wilson are pretty much the ones I can think of off the top of my head that were kind of allowed to float at that 335, 340 area. A lot of the other guys, playing tackle are going to be, need you to be about 310, 315, need you to be able to move. There's some fast guys off the edge. So, maybe if you get lucky, you come in at guard. I don't know what Truss's official weight is, but I know he's like 6'6". He would be very similar to what like I would project Calhoun to play at. Xavier Truss, about that same size. Also, kind of feeling like Calhoun might play some guard. I definitely think that we both feel that there's a much bigger opening inside at guard than there may be early on at tackle for sure.
Yeah, I just think
like an inside out kind of thing. Play guard as a sophomore, play tackle as a junior kind of thing.
Yeah. However, I mean, I'm sure Coach Searles has got their plan for development and everything, and the 3 to 4 year plan I think will be in full swing there. Listen, I think before we continue though, right, like you'll see a common trend in these 4 guys. Well, 3 of them for sure. But when you look at it, right, I just know Georgia's looking at it this way. You take massive individuals and trim weight off. It's just easier to trim weight off than it is to put weight on. So you'll see the common trend here. I think you can see him play in guard. Excuse me. I think you see him play guard, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you in a pinch, I think you can see him play out on the outside tackles or whatever. Definitely to start, I'm with you, Gobi. I think you see him go and play guard. Right? It's easier to play guard as well. You can hide these things rather than on tackle spots. You can't necessarily hide deficiencies. So it's no discredit or anything. It's just we'll see what happens. But I think right now you'll look at him as starting off probably guard. Now we move away from the offensive line to the defensive side of the ball. And what originally was supposed to be a July 12th commitment gets pushed up to July 6th. And the Nigerian nightmare, Joseph Jonah Ajonye from Conroe, Texas, commits to Georgia on July 6th that night. Shut up, Brooks Austin. And, I was extremely excited to get Ajonye in this class. The fact that he's kind of still raw, right? Being on that he's played, I think, like 3 years now. You went and just some fun facts from Brooks Austin's, the commitment and everything. You found out gains basically 100 pounds, right, since his freshman, sophomore year, whatever. That's incredible, right? But you're also adding another Nigerian commit in this class. It's just something about these guys. You're starting to see Coach Uzo Dariba have a huge part in this, getting these guys, because you have, Nnamdi Agboko as well. That's also Nigerian. And you're in the hunt for the number 1 overall prospect, according to On3, Williams Wanere, which is also Nigerian. Kobe smiling. But when you take a look at it, though, what I liked about Ajonye, right? Not only does he have a 5-star teammate that we'll talk about potentially, but also I think you look at what he brings to the team. And first off, you have to he brings motor, right? And a relentless one at that. And when, it's one of these things where 270, 280. What he wanted to play at Georgia is 280. That's having that kind of motor is crucial. You have to do that to play at Georgia. But when you look outside of that right there, also he's long, 84, 85-inch wingspan, massive wingspan, right? Again, it's starting to see these molds, these prototypical molds that Georgia recruiting is starting to piece together with, whether it be the defensive line, the offensive line. Kobe, what are your thoughts on Ajonye and what he brings to Georgia?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a little bit of a comparison, kind of throwback for some people, not too far, but somebody I played with, Tyler Clark out of Marques, Georgia. Tyler played defensive line, didn't play it a ton growing up, but just was very similar. High motor guy, high intensity, lot of love for the game, a lot of run to the ball, speed. Kind of came in as a very raw defensive lineman from Marques. Probably didn't get the best like fundamentals from there. Comes in, really works on that, and really young in his freshman sophomore, he is that high intensity player who's making those flash plays. He's swimming a guard tackle for a loss. He's shedding a double team, diving, making a tackle for a loss. Not making maybe the consistent plays early on in his career, but definitely flashing some speed, some athleticism, some length, stuff like that. And then as he progressed with Coach Scott, then he's really picking up 2 blocks at a time, or taking advantage of when he's one-on-one blocked. That's kind of how I see Ajonye, at least early on in his career. I can see him being a super flashy young player. Anytime you play with a lot of high intensity, a lot of a lot of drive, you're rewarded in Kirby Smart's defense. The thing is, though, you have to play within yourself and within the defense. That'll be the only thing, obviously everybody has to learn, is those flash plays are great, but you can't miss and cost the defense because you swam the guard and the run was away from you. And now that guard, because you swam him, gets up to the linebacker and they run for 15 yards. That's knowing what piece of the machine you are. So that's kind of where I see him. I mean, obviously, great to have him. Like you said, he's only been playing for 3-4 years. I think people don't realize how crazy that can be. But it'll be a good. I mean, big bodies are hard to come by that are good athletes. I mean, we take risk on big bodies all the time and hope they develop. This is the kind of guy that's well on his way to developing. And when Trey Scott gets his hand on him, he'll develop just that quicker.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, Trey Scott is at the point. We're at the point now with Trey Scott. Just you bank on, if you want him and he comes in this class, you trust it. All right, I think that's what we've seen under Trey Scott so far. But at the same time, when we look at it, right, you have Joseph Jonah Ajonye at 6. I think he's 6'4". 6'4", 275, right? And then literally the next day, July 7th, Nyier Daniels, the biggest of the group, commits to Georgia as well. And that man is a massive human being, massive human being. 6'8", 371, right? Again, you see the trend, massive individuals. Absolutely massive.
I'd hate to be a pair of his shoes.
That, and I'd hate to be lined up against him, but neither here nor there. So obviously he, day 3 commits to Georgia. Nyier Daniels, 6'8", 371. And I think you see a projection here. I think you have to play guard at the next level if you're Nyier. Well, Kobe might be critiquing me, my take there. Depends, right? It depends on the weight that gets trimmed off and what it looks like. What's the projection? Look at it. I definitely feel that Nyier is definitely more of a road grader, right? Not necessarily a good thing to lean on people, but when you're 371 pounds, Like as long as you keep your feet moving and you lean on people for 4 quarters, I'm okay with that. Definitely want to play with the right technique and things like that. But if you lean on somebody from a couple plays, right, that's going to wear them out too, right? We've seen it over the past. Kobe, what are your observations on Nyier? What does he bring to Georgia as well?
Yeah. The guard thing, it just is crazy to think about, I guess, like 6'8" being in a guard. Not saying it won't happen, not saying it couldn't happen. Nyier to me is one of those guys that, because of his weight, depending on how he plays his senior year, how he controls his weight, what he comes in at in December, if he early enrolls, I don't even know if he's eligible to early enroll. But when he comes in, whether January or May, whatever, you're always at risk being in that 375 range of being a redshirt guy, because we just got to get all that bad weight off of you, and then we really got to get some good weight back on you. He's a big guy, big frame, so he's going to carry that weight fairly well. He may be one of those guys, kind of like we were talking about Ben Cleveland, Isaiah Wilson, that they're going to let carry 340, 335, 340. So you're only talking about 30, 35 pounds, but you just really you need to take the time and mold him into the player he's going to be when he's 22 and done growing and, fully mature. You don't need to run him out there still kind of, fat bodied and expect him to play well consistently.
Yeah.
We've done that with a ton of guys. I mean, you've had a lot of guys come in. It's just a part of it at offensive line, at defensive line, come in a little overweight. You got to cut with Coach Sinclair. But then also, while you're cutting with Coach Sinclair, he's also putting muscle back. But I think he's going to be a good player. I mean, 6'8", like we've talked about, can't teach somebody to be 6'8". Kind of reminds me of they're just good guys to take a chance on. And he's not really taking a chance. I mean, he's a top 300 player. When we think about taking chances, I think of like Jacob Hood, who's a 3-star guy, who's kind of low down the list on a lot of people's rankings, who's 6'8". That's taking a chance on size. A guy that's a top 150 player, I think. I think he's like just barely a top 150 player, isn't he? Something like that.
Nyier is apparently 146.
Okay, so right there, that's really not he may be good one day. That's we actually think he could be, an all-conference player for the University of Georgia. So
definitely think that, obviously with the biggest one of the bunch, then you look at 4 for 4, but Marques Easley releases a top 3 that doesn't have Georgia in there, right? So Georgia comes away with a 4th commitment over the likes of Tennessee and Alabama and Oklahoma for Marques Easley. Marques Easley is my most intriguing offensive lineman in this class. The fact that he's 6'6", or 6'7", 6'7", 345, and can just absolutely just move. And I mean move. With an 85-inch arm span, it's just absolutely insane. The way he runs so effortlessly kind of gets you that feel like it's Broderick-esque. I'm not saying he will just yet, but you get what I mean. Just uber athletic, projects to me, and is 100% a tackle, 100%. Especially if you get him down into the 310, 320 range, I would expect him to play tackle effortlessly. Kobe, what are your thoughts on that?
Sorry. Yeah. For Easley, again, I keep harping on, 6'7", 345, more of a frame that's holding that weight well. He could be a guy, I'm not sure. Obviously, they're going to change it up. But he's a guy that does project to being a tackle. Long arms, long body. It's the kind of body in the SEC that you need. And to me, his big thing is, or like my big thing in his recruitment, is you really took him away from people. Same thing with Daniel Calhoun. You took him away from people that wanted him in the SEC. Nyier Daniels was wanted by some people, but kind of his top. What was his top? Rutgers and FSU and us. And don't I remember that right?
And
Was
Texas,
three?
I think. I think Texas was in as well.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So, like you're talking about, it always feels better when a recruit kind of has similar schools in their top three and they still pick you. I guess, for Rutgers and Florida State and even Texas, like they just aren't on our caliber of level yet. Like obviously Texas is poised to have a pretty good year in their last year in the Big 12. Florida State, if they can make it through the first 5 weeks of the season, 5-0, they're poised to have an unbelievable run at the ACC and possibly a college football playoff. But comparing those two to us, why wouldn't you want to play offensive line here? Versus Easley and even Calhoun, they have Alabama in their final. Easley has Oklahoma. He has Tennessee. These are guys. Those are teams that have put top level talent in the NFL at tackle too. Tennessee has a first round tackle this year. Alabama had a first round tackle last year. Oklahoma's had some good tackles. So that is people don't realize that is 4 very comparable offensive line schools to one another. And to kind of get the edge with Coach Searles on 2 guys that we wanted, and to win both of those battles just feels good. I think it speaks volumes for Coach Searles and how he's recruiting at this time. I think a lot of people kind of had some question marks when we hired him, when they kind of stopped and looked through a viewing glass of at UNC, he wasn't getting people. And at UNC, they led the nation in sacks. And when he was at Georgia and UNC, he's only ever signed 1 5-star offensive tackle or something, everybody was talking about. He's kind of dropped the bag on everybody this year and gone, we got the 6 guys we want. And there's really nothing anybody can do about it at the moment.
Yeah, I think when you take those 3 offensive linemen and then you pair them with what was already there, right? We talk about this Great Wall of Georgia, and it's just unfathomable. If we got a graphic here, we're going to pull this up and just kind of explain to you the size and just what Georgia has in this class alone. Excuse me. Oh, excuse me. So as you see here, Marques Easley, 6'5", 345. You've got Daniel Calhoun at 6'6", 365. Michael Uini at 6'7", 335. Marcus Harrison, 6'8", 335. Nyier Daniels, 6'8", 371. Malachi Tolliver being the smallest one at a 6'5", 315. First off, that's just insane. Big people move small people, and this is why you get the guys that you get. Just overall looking at that, it's just insane. I don't even know how to explain it, but that's just insane. What do you have to say about that, Kobe?
I just got the alert about Westfall committing.
Oh yeah, he commits to Florida.
I didn't realize how big he was.
6'9" or something, wasn't
he? 6'8", 330 is what they have him.
Damn.
Yeah, big fellow. Yeah, you look at that Great Wall of Georgia, and it reminds me of the Sam Pittman era, that we're going to have some big-ass dudes moving smaller men. And at some point, that's kind of the staple of when Sam Pittman was here, when he was, at Arkansas as just the offensive line coach. Everywhere he's been, the staple has been that he is getting big men that he can turn into good offensive linemen. And it kind of feels like Stacey Searles is taking a very similar approach. I'm not sure. I'm not as familiar with Coach Searles previously or even at UNC, but it feels like now he is looking for big men that he can teach how to be good offensive linemen. And that's a much better thing than sometimes, and that's the hard thing I think about playing offensive line. You can be a good offensive lineman, but if you're not big, it doesn't matter at some point. I hate to say it doesn't matter because it does. There are guys that make it as undersized fellows, but you got to realize these undersized linemen we're talking about are 6'2", 6'3", and they consider those guys, 6'4", and they consider those guys undersized. But it's impressive. I think it's impressive that you're going to keep right now, from what we've heard, all 6 of them. I think that was something that me and you and kind of, the ears behind the scene thought that you may not go 6 for 6, that you may lose a guy here or there along life's way. But right now it's kind of sounding like that everybody's along for the long haul. And so, quality depth makes a quality team. A quality scout team makes a quality defense. A quality scout team makes a quality offense. It's just how it works. And that's kind of where you cut your teeth as a freshman. And what better than have a bunch of these freshmen come in, run the scout team for a year possibly, and then that just makes your defense that much better. We've all heard about a ton of really, really good Georgia Bulldogs cutting their teeth on Kirby Smart's scout team for a year, and how impressive and how eye-catching they can be. You let somebody like Nyier Daniels go down there and impress. One of the most that reminds me, one of the single most impressive things I ever saw at while I was at Georgia, Isaiah Wilson, like first month of being at Georgia, he's out of shape, can't run, not used to the humidity and the heat, but makes it through one day. We get to 7-on-7. We're doing 1-on-1 pass rush. Lorenzo Carter versus Isaiah Wilson. I mean, this is like cream of the crop versus freshman 5-star tackle. And, no pads, no nothing. And Isaiah kick sets one time, and Lorenzo goes to use a speed move. And Isaiah turns his hips, and with just like the palm of his left hand, hits Lorenzo like under the swimming arm in his ribs and knocks him up and off of his feet, flat onto his back in front of all of us. I mean, just with one left-handed punch to the ribs. I mean, those are the kind of things. I mean, Sam Pittman's there, Trey Scott's there, Kirby Smart. We've all just watched this man do this. He can't run 10 sprints, but he just knocked Lorenzo Carter off of his feet with one hand.
It's ridiculous.
It's one of those things that's where you make a name for yourself. Right there, everybody standing there was like, Isaiah Wilson's going to be a good player for us one day. If we can get him where he can run and breathe and run plays, he's going to be a good player. That's what you look at all these guys. We love to hype up freshman offensive linemen, freshmen in general. Get there, prove a little something. You just never know. I mean, all these guys could be good players for you one day.
I think, like you said, though, Matt, like just looking at just sheer size is the interesting part there. I mean, like you said, we started off with the Great Wall of Georgia. You slim them down, right? Georgia runs like no one else. So you sit there, you run them, they'll slim down, maintain the weight as well, right? Like you got to be careful when you get someone, I feel like with that big, you have to definitely monitor things. But at the same time, you lose the weight, you sit there and just go from there, and you just develop them, right? You just develop them. All of them have I think, great skill sets to succeed at the next level. You pair that with what Georgia is losing after this cycle. You need that, right? You need to get that the jam back full of tackles and guards and everything else. You need all these bodies. So it's a good thing you see Georgia taking 6. Quick question as we move into the 25 cycle, though. Do you think this impacts, from a numbers perspective, how many Georgia takes in 2025?
No, because the way I look at it, you're going to lose 4 of your 5 starting offensive linemen off the jump. So there's 4 of them gone immediately. And then at that point, there's always going to be a couple guys that are going to fall to the wayside of the portal, that they're going to be, I've done 3 or 4 years here. I really haven't started. I really haven't played a lot. I'm gonna kind of look elsewhere to play, especially with only a year or 2 of eligibility left. I've gambled on myself. I've enjoyed my time here. I'm gonna look elsewhere. A good friend of mine, Chad Lindbergh, he's coming up on, I think Chad was a freshman in 2020. So he's been here. 2020 doesn't count. redshirt 2021, 2022, 2023. So he'll use 2 years of eligibility in 4 years. So he would be a grad transfer with 2 years left. There are a couple guys floating around like him that have been here that I could see you losing either as soon as the season ends in that like period of the portal, or after maybe like they get talked into coming and like staying for spring depth because some promises get made. But then after they kind of realize how the spring's shaking out,
yep,
you go on and move on. I think you easily could take 6 offensive linemen this year. And then at that point, I think you're still going to take probably 4. I would say a normal year of offensive linemen, there was like 4 or 5, 4. I mean, I don't think you change that a lot at this point.
I mean, I do think, I think 25 cycle is absolutely loaded with offensive line play, with excellent depth. Like top to bottom, I feel like it's better than this cycle, but you still, in this class, got a lot of good bodies, right? I'm extremely excited for all 6 of them, especially, with the anticipation that they stick around as well. I think that matters. I see Israel in the brigade saying, "What's up, guys?" Doing well, man. Doing well. But anyways, as we transition from what the current recruit is, On3 released some interesting situations, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Looks like so you got Ellis Robinson at 3, and then Raiola at 11. Kind of is surprising to me. Listen, at the end of the day, I just think that he's an excellent player, and it won't necessarily matter. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the overall situation. Listen, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of rankings or whatever. I prefer, I just prefer these guys doing what they have to do. But that's just me. What are your thoughts on the On3 ranking?
Here's the key thing, and I saw a tweet about it earlier. 2 months ago, 8 weeks ago, On3 released the top 10. And Dylan Stewart was number 1. And now, today, 8 weeks later, they released a top 10 again. And Dylan Stewart's number 10. What did he do? I'm Dylan Stewart. I'm calling director recruiting On3. What did I do? We haven't played a snap of football. What have y'all evaluated me to say that I went from being the number 1 player in the country to the number 10 player in the country? Based off what exactly? It comes and goes. It's the same reason why Kirby and them have their own. We have a whole crew, the whole dog pound does nothing but sit there and cut up tape, help evaluate talent, and kind of see who we like and who we don't like, and who we think can play and who we think can't play. At the end of the day, we don't care about what you're ranked, what your stars are, what class we finish with. We want to win. And that's what Kirby'd tell you. That's what he'd tell these recruits. He'd tell you, I don't care. Dylan Raiola is the last quarterback ranked on the board. If he comes in and he helps us win, it's just like Stetson Bennett. It's just like, you can sit here. Eric Stokes was a 3-star cornerback, first-round draft pick. Jordan Davis, 3-star defensive lineman, first-round draft pick. Stetson Bennett, 2-star JUCO, walk-on, ends up being a 4th-round draft pick, signs a couple $1 million deal, 2-time national champion. You can just go on and on, I guess, of like Tay Crowder. When Kirby got here, he was a 2-star running back that they converted into a linebacker. Yeah, he's Mr. Irrelevant. He barely gets drafted. But he was an NFL starting linebacker for a couple years for the Giants. Now he's floating around. He's in Pittsburgh. These are guys that, even now, A.D. Mitchell, who's at Texas, he was a 3-star, some 4-star here and there. I just guess at some point, it doesn't matter what you come in with, how many stars you come in with. It matters what you do. I think a perfect example of that is like we were joking the other day. If you look at Ohio State's class, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, they signed like 6 5-star defensive players or something like that just really haven't panned out so far.
I mean,
just because you have that star ranking doesn't mean you pan out.
No, you're always taking a gamble on any kid, really. I mean, think about this. There's a kid, I don't know if you remember this, but Corey Foreman goes to USC. When was the last time you heard that name?
To be fair for Corey, he has been hurt. I think he missed a whole season with an injury. But I do agree. I mean, it's just hard. I mean, I think you'll hear more about him this year. It's also hard that he plays in such a horrendous, overall defense. But I mean, I agree. There are names like that you can find that he was a number one recruit, really good recruit that we wanted, goes out to USC and kind of gets lost in that fold.
See, we got Mike Free in the building from Pearl Harbor. Aloha.
Aloha, Mike. I got a buddy that lives out in Hawaii, Mike. I do like On3 tweeted recently, biggest risers in the class of 2024 in the rankings. Marcus Harrison, the offensive tackle for Georgia, from not ranked to the 201st overall recruit. That's a pretty big jump for him.
That is massive. That is massive.
There's a couple other ones that are pretty impressive too. Bryce Kane, wide receiver for Auburn, went from unranked to 187. Ooh. Ethan Grunkmeyer, quarterback for Penn State, not ranked to 176. Elijah Moore, the other Elijah Moore, wide receiver committed to Florida State, from not ranked to 108. And then a little bit of bag money, little dirty oil money. Texas A&M quarterback Miles O'Neal from not ranked to 58.
God almighty. I mean, listen, this is just proof that the recruiting services, they can't get to everybody, folks. They just can't. They can't evaluate. They go off of what the coaching staffs across the country are evaluating, right? If for instance, if Kirby Smart and Georgia decides to offer you, and Alabama decides to offer you, LSU offer you, Ohio State, all these, if they do that, more than likely you're gonna see your bump. All right, it's just what's gonna happen. Just gonna leave that there. And as you can see right there, right, like if it's a committable offer, and like for instance Marcus' situation, Georgia you pop a Georgia offer and commit, more than likely you're gonna see yourself raising up, because apparently they'll have to go back and be like, what did we miss? Right? Just gonna leave that there. Kobe, before we wrap up, I do want to shout out our second sponsor, Alumni Hall, folks. Just check out their social media accounts. They got the new the FV jerseys, which those things look absolutely clean, by the way. Check them out. DGDpodcast.com/Alumni Hall. Mention the DGD podcast in stores and get 10% off your order. Follow them on social media at Alumni Hall UGA. That's both Instagram and Twitter. Listen, license Nike, Cutter and Buck, you name it, whatever you're looking for. License Georgia Bulldogs apparel, accessories, they've got it. Go check them out. If you want to go to the store, there's 1791 Oconee Connector, number 535 down in Athens, GA, about 10 minutes away from campus, if I'm not mistaken, from the field. Shout out to Alumni Hall for sponsoring the show. Thank you, Alumni Hall. Any final words, Kobe, for today?
Got a shout out. Don't listen, Pat, turn away. Gonna have to shout out a little Florida Gator on the show today. Hurston Waldrop got drafted last night in the first round of the MLB draft by the Atlanta Braves. Hurston and my brother Eli, pretty good friends. From Thomasville, Georgia. I went to school with his brother for a long time. Happy to see him have some success. Went to Southern Miss out of high school, transferred to Florida for his junior year, and now first round pick for the hometown Braves. So excited to see kind of where his journey begins and takes him to with them. So be the only good piece of Gator news for the day.
I'm gonna change that to a Braves news. How about that? Let's leave it at Braves news for this show.
I take Braves.
There we go. Listen, Georgia recruiting just had a massive 4-day span, 4 recruits, all of them big guys. We're not done though, folks. we're not done yet. Okay, we're not done yet. So keep that in mind. I'm just going to leave that there. Keep that in mind. Some big names could be coming off the board soon. So just again, stay tuned with us here. SEC Media Days next week. That'll be interesting to see how these things shake up. Also, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, the three Georgia players was it Kamari Lassiter, Brock Bowers, and Cedric Van Pran going with Coach Kirby Smart down there, up there to Nashville, right? For SEC Media Days. So it'd be interesting to see how things shake up there. I'm nervous about it, honestly. It sounds crazy, but a little bit nervous about what kind of questions you'll see, right? Just what's going to happen there. But other than that,
they're going to take their shots. That's for sure.
Oh, without a doubt. Without a doubt. We'll see what happens. But yeah, other than that, folks, I think that's all we've got for today. Tune in Wednesday, talk a little bit more, and hope everyone has a great day. Kobe, are you going to have a good day, sir?
I am going to have a good day. If anybody would like a good laugh on Twitter, Footballville, the podcast, I think. Have you ever heard of it?
I feel like I've heard of it. I haven't listened to it, but I have heard of it. Yeah.
They interviewed Marco Wilson, and one of the leading questions is, if you had to go back and do it again, would you still throw the shoe against LSU? And his response was, 100%. I would probably throw it even farther. Love that.
Take it as you will. I digress, and I stand. I'll leave it there. All right, folks. With that being said, make sure to tune in Wednesday. If you're watching on YouTube, watching wherever you find it, listen, like, subscribe, right? Follow us. If you're listening on podcast, leave a review, right? Leave a review. Let us know if there's something you want to hear. If we're doing something wrong, we can't fix it if you don't let us know. And that's what the reviews are good for, right? Ideally, 5 stars, right? It's what Georgia's accustomed to, what we would like to see. But hey, be honest with us. Definitely can't get better if you're not being honest. But with that being said, have a great day, and we will see y'all Wednesday. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.